Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 2nd of February. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. At this hour, the IDF is preparing to hold a special ceremony at the Palmachim Air Force Base, where 54 soldiers and officers will be commended for demonstrating extraordinary bravery and courage during Operation Protective Edge this past summer. IBA's R.A. O'Sullivan tells us more about this evening's event in this report.
It was a bloody 51-day battle that saw face-to-face combat with Hamas gunmen and seemingly endless fighting both above and below ground as Israeli troops fought to root out rocket launchers and terror tunnels. In this, there were some who stood out for their courage and going beyond the call of duty, saving the lives of their comrades and protecting the country. They are being recognized this evening. Those being decorated include active duty soldiers, commanders, and also those called up for reserve duty. One young officer, Lieutenant Eitan Fond, will receive the Medal of Valor for leading a squad of 4 soldiers into a terror tunnel in pursuit of Officer Hadar Golden, who was kidnapped and killed by Hamas fighters. Lieutenant Fond was deputy commander of the Givati Reconnaissance Unit and is expected to speak at the ceremony. Armed with just a pistol, he was able to recover the remains of Lieutenant Golden and prevent them from being held by Hamas. One citation is also being awarded posthumously to Lieutenant Colonel Dolev Kedar, a battalion commander who was killed in combat, stopping a terror cell from infiltrating into Israel. 4 women are also among those being decorated. There was some discontent when it was originally worded that they were cited for not losing their wits, and that was changed to say they saved lives, aided in the operation, and performed in a manner to be commended. Not just individual combatants were recognized, but also entire units, 13 of them, like Maglan, Yahalom, Okitz, 669 in Sierra Matkal, and Kipat Barzel, or the Iron Dome batteries. Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, will personally hand out some of the medals and citations, in a way culminating his term, which comes to end in just 2 weeks' time. And good news for all the other soldiers in the military. Starting today, their salaries will be raised by an average of 25%. For the first time, the pay of combat soldiers will be linked to the cost of living index and will now be 1,076 shekels a month. The salaries of support soldiers will be 540 shekels. R.A. O'Sullivan for IBA News.
A short time ago, REA spoke with Sergeant Sahar Elbaz, who is one of the soldiers receiving a citation from the Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, at the awards ceremony this evening.
I don't see it as a heroism. I see it as something that I had to do, something that is expected of every soldier to do.
You are an immigrant to Israel. Did this give you any sort of special perspective about what you were doing here?
Throughout my whole service, I tried as much as I can to understand why I'm here and fulfill my duty in the Army, because I didn't make Aliyah for no reason. I came to serve my country and become an Israeli. And given the situation, I had to do what I had to do in order to keep my friends from being killed.
Do you feel like you're Israeli now?
Yeah, I feel like I'm Israeli.
Oh, your parents here?
Then my parents flew in to especially for the ceremony.
They must be very proud.
Yeah, you could say so.
How much longer have you left in the service?
8 months.
Are you looking forward to getting out?
I'm enjoying my time in the Army right now. When the time comes, it'll come.
Okay, well, good for you, Sarah. Thanks for talking to IBA News.
Of course, thank you.
State Comptroller Yosef Shapira today announced that he will publish a report on the handling of expenses at the official and private residences of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu within 2 weeks. The so-called Bottlegate controversy could lead to a criminal investigation into the alleged misuse of public funds. We get more from IBA's Eli Wogelenter.
Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein is reportedly considering whether to launch a criminal probe against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for alleged misuse of public funds. Weinstein convened his top aides last night for consultations on the affair, in which the Prime Minister's wife, Sarah, is alleged to have pocketed deposits from soft drink bottles bought at the expense of the state. Weinstein sent a letter to State Comptroller Joseph Shapira after the meeting, asking him to transfer all the material gathered so far on the issue. Shapira announced today that his report will be published within the next 2 weeks, after speculation arose on whether the report would be released before the March 17th election. Shapiro's probe will reportedly not deal with the bottle scandal, but will instead deal with the management and expenditure at the Prime Minister's residence. A report published last week claimed that Sarah pocketed thousands of shekels in cash accrued from the recycling of empty bottles from the Prime Minister's office during the couple's term in office from 2009 to 2013. Turning to another political storm, the Likud party has a little egg on its face today after attacking the left-wing One Voice Foundation for interfering in the Israeli elections. Turns out that Bayit Yehudi Chairman Naftali Bennett and Intelligence Minister Yuval Steinitz both participated in One Voice events in the past year, and Likud MK Gila Gamliel has also appeared at a conference sponsored by the group. An official Likud statement claimed that One Voice was part of a coordinated attempt by labor and the left wing to buy their way into power. Meanwhile, the government decided last night by telephone vote to approve Economy Minister Bennett as acting Minister of Senior Citizens during the ongoing absence of Uri Orbach. The health situation of the Bayit Yehudi MK has deteriorated further after spending the last month at Shaarei Tzedek Hospital suffering from a severe blood disorder. Orbach is reportedly in a medically induced coma on a respirator and is listed in serious condition. He is expected to remain unable to attend to his duties for a prolonged period of time. Ellie Wogelanter, IBA News.
Joining me now here in the studio to discuss a variety of brewing political corruption allegations is attorney Michael Partem of the Movement for Quality Government. Hi, Michael. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with the so-called Bottlegate affair. Is this not an issue that you think, you can tell me, that should be postponed until after the election?
First of all, I would call it the recyclable gate, because we're talking about the deposits returned on bottles and cans that are recycled, and it did call attention to the fact that there is a law in this country providing a deposit on recycled cans and bottles, and it should be encouraged.
And thank you for saying that. I've been saying all along, what about the cans? You know, presumably they drink things out of cans as well.
Right.
So.
But the issue wasn't raised to draw attention to the whole notion of recycling. The issue was raised as, in the timing, it clearly is a political battering ram.
Right.
But that doesn't mean necessarily that we shouldn't look into it and see how the Prime Minister's office, in fact, is conducted. And we, and the Movement for Quality Government, feel that the state controller should publish his findings as soon as possible. It's better that these things come out before the election than after the election, despite the motivation which may be tainted with political instincts.
All right, but let's take a look at this. I mean, Mrs. Netanyahu is frequently the target of the press. They're always slamming her. Is she a legitimate target, or do you think that she's a victim of unjust, politically motivated attacks?
Well, the conduct of the Prime Minister's residence and the Prime Minister's official residence, the budget and the management thereof are legitimate targets. So, and in fact, from what I understand, nobody's claiming that these were private bottles or private use bottles. These were used as part of the conduct of the official Prime Minister's residence, their government expenditures, and so that's fair game.
All right, let's talk about the allegations from Likud that the co-chairman of the Zionist camp, Isaac Herzog, is attempting to swing the elections by accepting contributions from not only One Voice, but also the Victory 215 group, which is staffed by former Obama, campaign staff. What is the law about Israeli political parties receiving funds from abroad?
Well, we do have fairly strict campaign financing laws in this country, and that's a good thing. It is illegal for a party faction to receive funds from abroad. So it might be illegal in this case. On the other hand, all indications are that people have found a gray area, kind of something similar to what they call a super PAC in the U.S. In other words, if it's not connected with a specific candidate, and if it's not controlled by the candidate or the faction, if it's independent, it might fall into that gray area, which is permissible. And we're looking into it. It certainly deserves scrutiny. And we especially have to look into the question of whether or not these organizations are controlled in any way by the political parties. But that being said, as in a super PAC, if there is a independence, there's no control, And if they merely state their wish to change the government or a general political direction, then it appears that would be permitted.
Attorney Michael Partum of the Movement for Quality Government, always good to have you with us. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. In efforts to strengthen the government's efforts to present its case against the preliminary probe by the International Criminal Court into alleged war crimes by the IDF during last summer's war in Gaza, the Foreign Ministry is distributing a document to all of its missions abroad outlining the central arguments. The report accuses the court of shirking its responsibility as a legal institution while analyzing the significance and consequences of the decision it implies was made out of political considerations. The Palestinian acceptance as a signatory to the Rome Statute to become an ICC member on April 1st was also addressed as a controversial matter that should have been discussed in depth by all the relevant parties before the move. Trying to remain informed about the upcoming election can be challenging, particularly for new immigrants. An organization in Tel Aviv is trying to help and is tonight hosting a debate in English between veteran and hopeful members of the Knesset. Joining me now from our Tel Aviv studio is the director of the Tel Aviv International Salon, Jonathan Javor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Erin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Tell me, does your organization promote any specific ideology, or is it nonpartisan?
We promote Zionism. We love being in Israel. We have a community of, just in Tel Aviv alone, some 20,000 young Olim, and we want them to be engaged and we want them to be involved in what's going on in our beloved country. As an organization, we are not aligned with any one party or any one other ideology, except to say that we are proud Zionists.
Who's going to be participating in tonight's debate, and what are the central issues set for discussion?
So tonight we have 5 representatives. We have Tzachi Hanegbi from Likud, Chilik Bar from Labour, Tamar Zandberg from Meretz. We have Michael Oren from Kulanu, and Yaakov Perry from Yesh Atid, and it will be moderated by the political correspondent Chaviv Gur from the Times of Israel.
Sounds like a really nice lineup. Now, are the activities of your organization limited to the Tel Aviv area?
Not just Tel Aviv, but our focus is Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv today has the largest Olim community, young Olim. We very much focus on young Olim, 20s and 30s. The symbol of Tel Aviv is a lighthouse and a gate, and the light is on and the gate is open, and we want everyone to come home to Israel, come home specifically to Tel Aviv. You can still be a pioneer here, you can still influence, you can still create, and we want as many people to come and create their lives in Tel Aviv.
Let's talk about right now the details about tonight's event. Tell people where they can come.
So tonight's event will be at 7:30 this evening at Hangar 11 in the port of Tel Aviv. Entrance is 20 shekels. And we have around 1,000 people coming tonight, and obviously we welcome everybody to get involved and come and hear what the politicians have to say, and that way this community can make an informed and engaged decision about who to vote for and what piece of paper they're going to put in an envelope on the 17th of March.
How many more events do you have scheduled before the elections?
Well, quite a few, and we're adding as the days go on. We have a second, tonight's debate will be on security and peace process issues. On the 11th of March, we'll be doing a second debate that will focus more on domestic issues, the state of the economy, the state of social affairs. And in between, we'll be hosting several leaders of the different parties that would include a leader of the opposition and Labour, Buzzi Herzog. We'll be hosting a leader of Beit Yehudi, Naftali Bennett, and we are always interested in hosting as many leaders as possible, as many people coming and speak to this great community, and get your word out so that these amazing new Olim can make the best decision that they can possibly make.
What kind of a feedback do you hear from the people who do attend your events?
Well, considering, I'm obviously biased, but considering that we do so many events and considering that people keep coming back, that the feedback is great. There's never been a situation where someone has said, don't do any more. We always try to do as much as we possibly can. We are a community-based organization. Everybody involved is a volunteer. Everybody has a day job. And what we want to do is to make sure that people are engaged, that people they aren't just here to live here, but they feel that Israel, and Tel Aviv specifically, is their home. That's what we want. And the more we do, everything from a Shabbat dinner for 250 people to screening a movie at the Cinematheque here in Tel Aviv, an Israeli movie, whether it be classic or modern, everything we do is to get this community more in touch with Israeli society, more in touch with their roots, more in touch with being here, and to really, really be part of this amazing, amazing country.
I wish we'd had an organization like yours when I came to the country. Jonathan Javor.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we do it. When we first came, there wasn't anything in English.
That's right.
There was absolutely nothing, and it just was a group of people, and I could run off a long list of names of volunteers who have done incredible things, and it's all because there was nothing, and now there is, and we're really grateful for that.
Jonathan Javor, thanks so much for being with us, and best of luck with tonight's and all the future events.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. In other news, 50 ultra-Orthodox Jews were arrested at various locations throughout the country today during protests against the induction of members of their community into the IDF to perform compulsory military service. 2 officers were injured during clashes, including a border policeman who was hit in the head with an iron bar. Demonstrators used garbage containers to block roads in Ashdod, Hadera, Elad, the Shiloh Junction, and a number of sites in Jerusalem. The demonstrations come in response to the arrests of a number of yeshiva students classified as deserters for refusing to report for duty at IDF draft centers as ordered. Visiting former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani is defending Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to speak before the U.S. Congress next month. During an interview on Israel Television's Mabat program with Yaakov Elon, the Republican politician warned of the danger in permitting Iran to maintain nuclear capability.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us.
Very nice to be with you again.
Inviting Prime Minister Netanyahu to speak before Congress at this juncture, a good idea?
Yes, this is not the first time he's been invited, and I don't know why this has become such a fuss. I mean, the fact is, the Prime Minister has addressed Congress before. He's been invited to address Congress before.
Not before elections in Israel.
Well, I'm not sure John Boehner and John McCain and the people in America really focused on the American elections. What you should know is that right now the Congress is holding hearings on Iran. So this would be the perfect time to ask him to come in and speak, testify, whatever. We just had 4 generals testify, 3 former secretaries of state. So I think this is more their schedule than his schedule.
You have the President of the United States expressing one opinion in Congress, and then you have Israeli Prime Minister expressing the opposite opinion. There's not a problem with that?
Well, of course not. We're democracies. In my own country, many people in my country support your Prime Minister's position. I do. So does just about every member of my party, which is the majority party in the Senate and the House. So, you know, my government is not just the President. It's also the House of Representatives, which is Republican, the Senate, which is Republican, and a majority of members in both those houses support your Prime Minister's position. In fact, a substantial number of Democrats support your Prime Minister's position, unlike the President.
Exactly. When the President says that he won't meet Netanyahu in Washington, when White House officials accuse the Israeli ambassador of working behind their backs with the Republicans, this is unprecedented.
Yes, it is. It really is. I mean, the reality is that, unfortunately, and I put this at the doorstep of the White House. Relations with Israel have always been nonpartisan. Republicans and Democrats have always pretty much agreed on Israel as being America's strongest ally.
Is Israel on verge of becoming a partisan issue on Capitol Hill?
I don't think so. I think it's going to become more an issue for President Obama, because I think most people in his party support Israel, as do most, if not all, people in the Republican Party. People of Israel should understand, despite whatever is going on with the President and the Prime Minister, the people of the United States support the State of Israel as our strongest ally in the Middle East, as one of our strongest allies in the world, and as a country that shares a real burden in common with us, which is the threat of Islamic extremist terrorism. The majority of my people agree with that. Whether the President does or doesn't is a separate matter.
Do you see a possibility where Democrats will walk away when Netanyahu speaks, or will not come to hear him?
Well, Democrats are going to have to make a choice between what they truly believe and how much they want to bow to the wishes of the President. That's a common thing that politicians have to do, and the great ones have their conscience rule them. John Kennedy wrote a book about that called Profiles in Courage. So we'll find out which ones have courage and which ones don't.
With ISIS on one hand and Iran on the other hand, would you say that President Obama is soft on terrorism, Iran, foreign policy?
I would say that, as I've said over and over again, that it is a mistake for the president not to use the words Islamic extremist terrorism. The reality is that's our enemy. It's our common enemy for the United States, for Israel, strangely, for Russia, for China, for France, we just found out. I was in Britain when the attacks took place in Britain, as well as in New York when the attacks took place in New York. So this is a common enemy that we face. And the sooner we realize it and the sooner the president sort of takes a leadership role there, the better off we're going to be.
Mayor Giuliani, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turning to Egypt, where sentencing over violence during the military takeover a year and a half ago is continuing to be meted out. 183 members of the banned Muslim Brotherhood were today sentenced to death for involvement in the killing of 16 police officers in Kerdasa during August 2013 riots. During security service operations against two protest camps in the stronghold of former Islamist President Mohamed Morsi, militants stormed the police station, including the firing of rocket-propelled grenades. Many of the victims' bodies showed signs of torture and mutilation. 34 of the defendants were given the death penalty while they were sentenced in absentia and remain at large. Iranian state television today reported the launching of its fourth satellite into space in recent years. Defense Minister General Hossein Degan confirmed that the technology was designed and manufactured in the Islamic Republic and named Fajr, which means dawn in the Farsi language. There's widespread concern in the international community that Tehran's space program could help scientists to develop rockets designed to carry nuclear weapons. The latest launch comes amid ongoing attempts by 6 world powers to reach a comprehensive long-term agreement with Iran over its disputed nuclear program. Returning to Cairo, where negotiations are underway to export gas from Israel's Tamar reserves to Egypt. The U.S. Noble energy firm operates the offshore field and, along with its partners, has explored options to link Tamar to Egypt's Damietta LNG plant. A delegation from the company is discussing the prospect with officials from Egypt's state gas company and the Ministry of Oil, where sources today said that the discussion is focused on technical procedures to transport the Israeli gas. 2 months ago, a representative from one of the Israeli partners, Delek Drilling, said that if a deal is signed, Egypt could begin importing gas by 2017. Taking a look at local finance, and the shekel today put in a mixed performance in foreign currency trading, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were up across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. The IBA weather team tells us that tomorrow we can expect partly cloudy skies and a drop in temperatures. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I'll be back at this desk tomorrow, same time, same channel. Hope to see you then. We now leave you with images from the annual Venice Carnival, where enormous crowds gathered to watch yesterday's vibrant and colorful boat parade. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.